Hey guys, new information about Chaos Zero Nightmare dropped and we're gonna go over it together. But before we hop in, I wanna mention two things real quick. The first thing is that the most important information about the game that we need wasn't given to us. Those are the Yuki buffs, because however they would handle the Yuki buffs determines if the game dies right on the spot and I would immediately uninstall, or if I would play for a little bit longer and wait for them. If you were here to find out about the Yuki buffs yourself, that is not gonna happen, unfortunately. The second thing I want to mention is that was the #1 worst live stream I have ever seen in my entire life. They had 3 completely brain-dead, clueless morons on there, barely even being able to read off of a screen properly. It was absolutely insane, but I mean, we suffered through this together. Or if you haven't watched it, then yeah, I did it for you and you absolutely owe me something here. Okay, now let's take a look at the new character Chizuru and her kit. First of all, her 2 basic cards are called Moonslash, and they are already something pretty special because they hit for 60% fixed damage twice. Those are very good basic cards. Then we have this usual 100% shield slot that we always gonna remove anyways. Then for 1 AP we have an attack card called Karmic Flames, which is always 100% guaranteed to be in our starting hand, and it moves on top of our deck after a reshuffle. That deals 100% damage. It inflicts 1 Cursed Shackle, and this Cursed Shackle does not only add a hit, but these Cursed Shackles act like a debuff. And you apply this debuff to one of your enemies, obviously. Then, when an ally uses an attack card other than a bind card on the target with Cursed Shackles, Chizuru gains a Will-O-Wisp. Then, next up, we have a skill card for 0 AP called Tsukuyumi. What it does is 2 Will-O-Wisps for each hit of the next attack card used by this unit, of Chizuru of course. Almost every single card of hers hits multiple times, so you will be able to apply those Will-O-Wisp stacks rather quickly. Alright. Then we have the upgrade guaranteed in our starting hand. It's unique and costs 1 AP, called Bound at Dusk. What it does is, at the start of the turn, you gain Inhibit. You decrease all your cards cost by 1 until 1 random card of another combatant is used. We will talk more about this in just a second. First, let's read the next card called Oni Hunt. It costs 1 AP, it's an attack card. It has haste and it hits for 60% damage 3 times, plus 30% damage to the next bind card used. And now, before we check out the Shadow of the Moon attack card for 1 AP that has bind, let's talk about some special effects here, like for example the Will-O-Wisp as well. We already figured out what Cursed Shackles are. Now let's take a look at what this Will-O-Wisp stacking is all about, because 5 stacks of Will-O-Wisp create a Shadow of the Moon card. And yeah, once this happens, the Will-O-Wisp stacks are decreased by 5. Okay, cool. So we apply Cursed Shackles, then that gives us stacks of Will-O-Wisp, that creates us Shadow of the Moon card. Now these Shadow of the Moon cards have bind. What does bind mean? It means that when bind cards of this unit are in hand, they fuse into 1 card. If you have 2 cards with bind in your hand, you fuse them together into 1 card. If bind is 3 or higher, you change the Shadow of the Moon card into the Shadow of the Moon Plus card. We have something like Inhibit that we activate at the start of every single battle, because the card with Inhibit is guaranteed to be in our starting hand. So what is Inhibit? It is very, very important because it is a huge nerf to this character. It says that you cannot gain AP except at the start of the turn or on Ravage. You add 1 hit to Shadow of the Moon, and Shadow of the Moon Plus. So what that boils down to in the end, it defines the character Chizuru and what she is. Because since you cannot gain AP, then that means you will not be played together with Mika. We all know how incredibly good Mika is, and Mika will always be part of our number one team, of our main team. So Chizuru is a character that if you pull for her and if you play her, she will be the main DPS of your second team without Mika. Now let's actually read what our core card Shadow of the Moon Plus does. It costs 1 AP, it is an attack card, it is unique, it gives you bind 3 and you retain it. It deals 70% damage twice, it heals you by 5% of your max HP, plus 20% damage for each stack of bind. And yeah, this is what you're all about. You gotta figure out the way to create the card Shadow of the Moon Plus as fast as possible, as much as possible, so as many copy of it as fast as possible, so that you can use it over and over and over again and as many times as possible. That is something that we're gonna go more into depth about when this character drop, and I will make a how to play Chizuru guide. Her ego skill also synergizes with this creating of Shadow of the Moon cards. You can see this here. It costs 5 EP. It deals 250% damage to one target. For each Shadow of the Moon card created, this ego skill in fact, deals plus 50% damage. You can stack this up to 10 times. So you can add 50 times 10 damage to this ego skill. It will hit like an absolute truck, and it is very, very fast if you play Chizuru correctly. We do not have access to her epiphanies yet. The Japanese stream had them. They will be translated, and then we can talk about them at a later date. Probably my next video is gonna include a talk about her epiphanies. We will see about that. Now let's talk about her dupes, her manifest egos, as they are called in this game, because they are extremely important. You have to have at least, spoiler alert, 2 dupes of her. Otherwise, I would not advise you to pull for this character. So, her first ego, her first dupe says plus 20% damage amount to Shadow of the Moon Plus, and you add plus 3% recover to it as well. That is already massive. More damage, more recovery is very, very important, by the way, because you don't play Mika and you will have a lack of healing abilities in your deck. So adding recovery to the Shadow of the Moon Plus card plus 20% damage is massive. Then her second dupe says, when using Shadow of the Moon Plus, you create a Shadow of the Moon card. You can see, right? That is absolutely insane. You need that. Again, all of her kit, the whole character Chizuru is all about creating these Shadow of the Moon cards as much as possible, as fast as possible. And now, if you use a Shadow of the Moon card, a Shadow of the Moon Plus card, then you create a Shadow of the Moon card. That is insane. That is a must-have. Absolute must-have. Without this, don't even worry about playing Chizuru. I'm just telling you this right away. Then her other dupes are not bad, but pretty irrelevant though. Let's read them off though. Her dupe number 3 says plus 150% damage to Moonlight of High Tide. Her dupe number 4 says when Shadow of the Moon is created, you gain a Lunar Shard. A Lunar Shard is plus 10% damage amount to Chizuru's attack cards. You can stack this up to 3 times. Dupe 5, increase the level of basic card upgrade, unique card upgrade and common card upgrade by 3. Not too bad, because remember, her basic cards are something special and pretty good, but this is not a must-have or anything like that. Then her dupe number 6 is change the damage amount increase effect of Lunar Shard to 15%, and at 3 stacks you add a hit count to Shadow of the Moon card plus. Her dupe number 6, of course, that would be the biggest juicer. That is insane. Plus 1 hit to Shadow of the Moon is pretty crazy, but yeah, again, stop. Like, you have to pull for 2 dupes and then stop there. 2 dupes are an absolute must, though. Emphasis on that. Remember this, please. Next up, we have her partner, Itsuko. Let's read it. Chizuru's attack is increased by 8%. Every time Chizuru's card stacks via bind, 5% attack card damage. This can stack up to 3 times. Every time an attack card of Chizuru deals 3 hits, 30% fixed damage to the target. Absolute garbage, don't pull for this partner. This ego skill of the partner says for 4 ego points, 200% damage to all enemies, apply Fierce Wind effect. Fierce Wind effect is plus 50% damage amount to attack cards of Chizuru for 1 turn. This ego skill is pretty good, yeah, it costs 4 points though. You want to use Chizuru's ego skill for 5 ego points, way over this every day of the week. So that means, even though this ego skill here from Itsuko sounds nice, it is not, because if you use your ego points, you will use them for Chizuru, all 5. You're never gonna use this ego skill anyways, so forget about this partner and don't waste your resources on it. On to the teams, the partners, right? Your teammates. Who should you play Chizuru with? Here on your screen you can see some recommendations from the developers. None of those recommendations is accurate. The very best team for Chizuru is gonna be Rei and Nia. You want one of your characters should be here to, first of all, heal and draw your cards, because you will have to draw into your Tsukuyomi card as much as possible. Also, right, let's go back to her skills real quick. You will want to reshuffle your deck as often as you possibly can, because you want to draw into the card Karmic Flames to apply those cursed shackles, right? You want to continuously stack Will-O-Wisp very fast, so you need the card Tsukuyomi. And point is that you need card draw. You really want a character that draws cards, and you also want a healer in your team that is not Mika, right? Because you cannot gain AP+. That's why Nia is pretty much an absolute must play together with Chizuru, and you will see that you reduce your cards cost by 1 thanks to your upgrade, and that will lead to you busting out a lot of attack cards for 0 AP. And since you hit multiple times with your cards, right, just as Rin does, you want the +4 morale from the Rei card. Rei has a card that for very cheap, I think for either 0 or either 1 AP, she gives you 4 morale for the turn. And you absolutely want that for Chizuru. That is the best thing in the game, the best support card for Chizuru in the game. You absolutely don't want to miss out on that. So the team that you finally gonna play with Chizuru is Rei and Nia. Alright, we can now move on from the character Chizuru more onto her when she's actually released tomorrow. Then Galactic Disaster story update. Yeah, we get a story update, of course. with new battle missions available. Cool. With the Chaos Laboratory 0 is the seasonal planet. They add new unidentified areas, and they offer you, via these new unidentified areas, 2 new fates. Additionally, unlike those obtainable only by entering the outskirts or interior, those are obtainable as identified. Yeah, I just said that, right? So, new identified areas offer you 2 new fates. Those new fates are called, one is called Closure. It decreases your turn draw by 1. But at the start of your turn, you draw an attack card, and the damage is increased by 20% for the attack card that you draw. So very, very good right here. The other fate is called Liberation. That says that at the start of the battle, you create 2 ambush attack cards. Just in case you are wondering, this is the ambush card. It does 82% damage. If Ravage, move this card from the graveyard to your hand. It does not apply the mark. This is in a Pathinite version that I'm showing you right here. So, absolute terrible garbage. Never choose this fate. Always go for the fate Closure. That gives you guaranteed an attack card at the start of your turn, and you deal more damage with it. Both pretty underwhelming, but those are extra fates. So we take them if we get them. Liberation, I would be recommending to skip in its entirety. Then, yeah, stuff that we oh no, this is a new hidden boss. Okay, it's called Core of Discord. A hidden boss now appears on the seasonal planet. Decision dependent hidden events occur in specific unidentified areas. Clearing the interior allows you entry to the Core of Discord. Stronger hidden bosses appear as a result of story progression. So after you beat a run of the new seasonal planet, you will now get access to special new bosses, let me say it like that. You can see one example on your screen right here called Core of Discord. Then we have codex improvements. Those are very, very useless. We already talked about this in the previous note, that now dimensional tunnels appear in all chaos within the codex. Save data obtained via codex with the dimensional tunnel option can be used in season content. Forbidden cards are obtainable upon encountering a dimensional tunnel in the codex. Yeah, it is mostly useless, but not entirely, because see, the save data that you can establish yourself in the new seasonal planet is not as good as the save data that you can accomplish yourself in the codex. Now, in the codex, you can establish yourself a save data for the season. So that is what you're gonna do. Right now, when this update drops, you're gonna log in, right? You will then, whenever you start a run, start codex run first. You will there obtain yourself new save data for the season. Once you are satisfied with the new seasonal save data that you obtained via this codex, you're gonna go back and play the seasonal planet with that new accomplished save data of yours. Keep that in mind. The Nebula Distortion now has a third boss unlocked called the Sweet Dream. You can see him on your screen. You know this guy already from Chaos Runs. Then the Great Rift Suppressed Servant opens up. You form 2 teams, the Vanguard and the Rearguard, to defeat the boss within the turn limit. The key is utilizing amplification effects to achieve the highest possible score. You will have some quote-unquote missions there. They tell you what to do, something specific, and you will have to do this. Your runs in the first half of this event, it will last 3 weeks from December 3rd to Christmas. You can earn various rewards yeah, various rewards. That's about that. So yeah, go ahead and play the Great Rift, right? Needless to explain, I guess. Then the Blackhorn shop, we have already talked about this, but here's new additional information, right? When we go over the notes and this information about the shop, then I was wondering, like, hey, how useful will this actually be? What if, for example, the feather that you can obtain here, there is only one feather, or maybe 2 or 3, but now we know there's actually 12. I was going over these crystals. What if there are like only 10 or 20 or even 50 crystals available? This shop will not be very useful. Here we can see 250 of each of those crystals is available. That is a pretty significant number. Then yeah, same goes for all the other rewards. So this shop here is a pretty big W. Yeah, the second supply shop is gonna open. You can see the rewards right here on your screen. We get the free dupe, right? Yeah, I already did a video for what characters you should gain a dupe. What would be the most effective way. Now, of course, this changes, because if this item would be usable on Chizuru, you should get, of course, a dupe for Chizuru, because remember what I told you earlier, you will need 2 dupes for Chizuru, otherwise she will not be worth pulling for. And with this item, you would only need 1 to pull for 1 dupe for Chizuru. Keep that in mind. Then we have 2 new sets for the memory fragments. Both of them are completely useless, but let me show you them. We have the Orb of Inhibition or something like that. It's a 4-set piece. When hitting 2 times with an attack card, plus 10% damage amount to void cards for 1 turn, you can trigger this up to 2 times per turn. That is not good. That's 20% for 1 turn after you hit an enemy with an attack card 2 times. Like, yeah, I mean, they want you to believe that this is the new set that you need to establish for the character Chizuru. No way, you're gonna always go for crit no matter what anyways. Then we have a new 4 set as well called Judgment Flames, plus 50% damage amount to instinct cards, but only when you use them against ravaged targets. Also, complete utter trash. You can completely ignore these sets altogether. The Unigram is now open. You can now chat with your characters and treat them like a virtual girlfriend, because you will never obtain a real girlfriend in your life. So that's a big win for all of us. The affinity improvements. Now you will get access to more presents that you can gift to your characters to raise their affinity level. Not only that, but each character will have a preferred gift. If you give him the preferred gift, the affinity level will rise even more than from a non-preferred gift. Let me say it like that. Cool. Then moving on, what else do we have? Growth improvements. I think we already talked about this. Let's read it. Yeah, this is the units downgrade, so to speak. They reduce the amount of units that you need to upgrade a character by 80%. That's huge. From over 1 mil to a little bit over 200k. That is insane. And if you have already leveled up your characters to a certain degree, you will get a refund of units sent to you via mail. The character Ray did not have a special lobby, but here it is. We get a special lobby for Ray because her viability drastically increases thanks to the new character Chizuru. As I explained earlier, yeah, the quick formation, you can now choose multiple characters instead of just one to build your basin of hyperspace teams. Cool. Other improvements, let's read them off real quick. It displays the fate memory. Yeah, now you can check your turn count first of all, and you can also check your save data value, how high it is at any given point in your chaos runs. It's quality of life improvement, so you have to use your brain less and you don't have to count every single time. Cool, quality of life improvements. Then the unidentified area events like dimensional tunnel, rare species, all the Delang shop are now always visible on the minimap. Thank you, that's also a quality of life change. Added voice lines for the Delang shop, no one gives a fuck. Improved text clarity for some confusing equipment items. We will see about that. It will still be confusing, I guarantee you this. Added choices to obtain gift items in certain policies. Improved animation for immediate recovery from breakdown state. Improved fate. The fate that gives you the ability to set the monster's HP to 1 via your next 2 normal battles. This is now changed to 3 normal battles instead of 2. They added a current turn indicator to the bottom, I just explained that. Added turn indicators for Team 1-2 during Basin of Hyperspace. Turn limit stages. Cool. That's it for the video, guys. I hope this was fun and informative. If you like Chaos Zero Nightmare content in general, please consider leaving a follow on my channel. I would really appreciate it. But until next time, don't forget to join the Discord server. Link in the description down below. Take care of yourselves. Have a great day. Peace and love.